Right, thank you very much to Ellen for that and to Louise for designing the programme today that gave me the graveyard shift. So it left me talking to a room full of teachers at 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon on the second last week of term. Thanks, Louise. Much appreciated. So this morning, you spent time hearing about exactly what is in the policy, which I realise will not be new news to a lot of the people who are in this room. We spent time hearing from John earlier on about why it is that we're doing what we're doing. We've heard from Ellen about some of the support that's available, but now it's time to look at how we're supposed to do it. How on earth are we supposed to make 1 + 2 work in our contexts? So, on all of your tables, there's a Polly Pocket full of curricular maps, so it would be a good idea to take these out just now. As part of my secondment, I've been going around loads of different schools, doing various different things, and had a look and found some really interesting curricular models. And one of the schools is actually represented here today, so Emma, I might call on you for a wee bit of a hand with any questions that might come up. And what I would like to do at the moment is just take you through these different models to have a wee look at them so that you can see what other schools across the country are doing. We've got a variety of contexts here, we've got a variety of sizes of schools, a variety of languages getting provided, and there might be wee bits there that you can steal, there might be wee bits that you think are quite interesting, there might be something that you think you could maybe tweak your own system with. So, we'll look at 7 different schools, and there's something really key here actually that I want to point out. Each of these schools are moving towards full implementation. They're not there yet. This is not the final product by any standard. But the thing that all of these schools had in common is that they had very strong principal teachers that were knocking on the doors of the senior management teams and that were pursuing this agenda in their schools. And that's really what we'd be looking to all of you to be doing as well after today. You know, it's really disappointing that we haven't got senior managers here with us, but like Ellen was saying, you're going to be armed with all the information that you need to go and start tapping those doors and making a pest of yourself and making the SMT realise that this is something that they're going to need to take notice of. So we're going to have a wee chance for reflection. We've got reflective questions there on the table, and also because the acoustics are quite so poor in here today, we're not going to do a plenary session at the end when everybody reports back. So I would ask you, if you've got any questions or any points that you'd like us to take back, to note them down on the post-it notes that are on your tables and pop them up over the flip chart there. And once we've finished with our discussions, I'll just hand back to Lawrence to kind of pull it together for the afternoon. So, first things first, let's take a wee look at Broughton High School, which some of you may have heard of, in Edinburgh. Now, Broughton's system is really interesting. I take it that's up? Yeah, can everyone see it? Brilliant. Right, Broughton's system is really interesting because they've got a really rich language community. It's an inner city school in Edinburgh, so they've got lots of native speakers of other languages in their school community. They've also decided that because they've got a big modern languages department with lots of different capacity in the staff and different capacity among the primaries, that they're going to prioritise language diversity. Okay? So, what they do is an IDL project in first year that takes in business, IT and Spanish. So they're looking at hitting on E's and O's in modern languages and in CDT as well. Then in S2, L3 is actually Mandarin. And it's on a rota, because they've got a Confucius hub, so they've essentially got an extra teacher, they do it on a rota and the kids come out of French in order to get their Mandarin. Now they're aware that this isn't absolutely ideal. They're aware that L3 should not be taking away from L2, but in order to use the capacity of the staff that they've got, that's the route that they've decided to go down at the moment. They've also got a variety of electives in S3, which you'll see as we go across the 7 schools is a recurring theme. They've got a variety of senior phase options, which is another thing that you're going to see as a recurring theme, because it's really important that if we're getting the kids into the BGE and we're giving them a great experience in 2 different languages in the BGE, that they can see that there's somewhere that they can go after that they know that if they're good at it and if they're enthusiastic about it, then the higher Spanish is going to run by the time they're in 5th year, that they can do advanced higher when they get to that stage. They also run support for native speakers, so that if you're a native speaker of a language that they can provide a qualification in, then you're able to get presented in that language, as well as the language learning you get as part of the mainstream. They also have the language baccalaureate there as well, so again, that's just another part of a high-profile celebration of languages, creating a culture of language learning in their school. I should mention actually that if there's any more information that you want about any of these curricular models, because I realise the plans that I've given you are very focused on languages and where language sits in the curriculum, but if you or your deputies need more detail, please just get in touch and I'll be happy to send that along. Now, if you'll just indulge me for a wee moment, I want to look at Calderglen High School, which is my own substantive post. Now, the interesting thing about Calderglen is that we've got 2 L2s going on at the same time here. So with GME, there's this interesting discussion about where Gaelic fits in. Is it 2 L1s? Is it 2 L2s? So interesting discussions there to be had. But the way we ran it was, we had kids coming up from Gaelic medium education into Calderglen. They actually came out of French in order to do Gaelic, which wasn't ideal because these kids were talented linguists. You know, they were bilingual from a very young age. But the time had to come from somewhere. So we were having these really difficult conversations and making these really difficult decisions about where on earth to get the time from. The provision that we made for them in order to get another language was that they could take a masterclass in S3 or take beginner Spanish in S3 as well. And if you start beginner Spanish in our school in S3, there's the assumption that you're going to take it onto a national qualification in S4. So it's that idea that it's not quite 3 and 3, it's a slight narrowing of the curriculum at the end of second year, but the commitment that the subjects that you take at the end of second year, you can only drop one going into third year. So the assumption is there that you're going to be there until you get your national qualification. The master classes in S3, I should mention, came about when we moved to the 33 period week and allocated all the time to all the subjects, and there were 2 extra periods in S3 on a Monday afternoon. So we thought, right, what are we going to do on a Monday afternoon? Now the masterclass programme has got an enormous variety of different things in it. There's cosmetology, patisserie, songcraft, photography. So what were we going to do in modern languages that was going to be something that was quite jazzy and different and interesting to get the kids to come into our department? Well, most of the time we actually give the kids the choice of what language it is that they want to learn. So it's been Spanish in the past. One year we actually also did, one of my colleagues actually did a night class in Japanese and did Teach As You Learn, which was hugely popular and hugely empowering for her as well, because she was going to her night class during the week, coming in on a Monday afternoon and saying, look kids, this is what I learned last week, and doing that alongside them. And it was a really enjoyable experience for both her and for the pupils. Again, a variety of senior phase options. We make sure that all 3 languages, French, Spanish and Gaelic, are running all the way to advanced higher every single year. And that means taking multi-level classes. It means sometimes taking the advanced higher in your non-contact time. But the kids know that that progression is there. The kids know that if they want to do it, then that option is there for them and the commitment is there from the staff to deliver it. So Douglas Academy in Bearsden, they've got an interesting model of electives as well, where theirs is over 2 years, so they've got 24 electives, a choice of 24 electives over first and second year, and they take 11 out of the 24. Now they've got an option there for Spanish and Mandarin, or Mandarin, it's up to the kids, so they can actually take both, just one of them, or unfortunately none still. So we know that all the kids aren't quite getting their entitlement to the L3 at the moment, but that's something that the PT is aware of, and she's having those conversations with the deputy to say, actually we should be saying that you've got a choice of 10 plus one modern language. So that's something that's ongoing. Now, their L3 experience then when they're doing their electives is very light touch, because it's the chance then for the teachers of the department to sell their subject. To sell their subject area, to sell their department, and to make sure that they're getting kids who are choosing to be there when they get the choice forms out further up the school. They've managed to maintain language diversity there as well, so from a school that traditionally had French and Italian, they've upskilled their primary staff in L3 to deliver L3 Spanish on a continuum, and they've got options for Spanish and Italian further up the school. Also, you'll notice Mandarin in 6th year as well. So it's in there in 1st year, and then it comes back in 6th year. The thing I really liked about Douglas, actually, when I went out, was the way that they used their 1+2 funding. So instead of buying resources or a course or whatever, they actually paid the secondary teachers to develop a course for their primary colleagues. Then they paid their primary colleagues the supported study rate to attend the course. And I thought, isn't that excellent? Because so much of what we're doing in modern languages is relying on other people's goodwill. We're relying on people being willing to meet after school or to be able to use their non-class contact time for different things. But by making that gesture, it was saying, we really value the time that you're giving up to do this. We really value that you want to upskill yourself and that you're taking responsibility for delivering this policy. And it's also sort of saying, you've got responsibility to go and share this knowledge when you then go back to school. So an interesting way of using the funding there. Again, variety of senior phase options. You'll see that S5, S6 column there is very crowded because there's a lot of different things that they can do there. And they've managed to maintain language diversity, so they've got something for everyone. It maintains everyone's interest. Right, brace yourselves for the Harris Academy model in Dundee. This is seriously complicated. In this school, they've got 6 associated primaries. 2 have got L2 Spanish, 2 have got L2 German, and 2 have got L2 French. How do you manage that when they come up to secondary school? By having 3 L2s. So in order to maintain language diversity, the principal teacher here has said that she'll have 2 classes running of L2 Spanish, 2 classes running of L2 French, and 2 classes running with L2 German. They're lucky, they get 4 periods a week of language. So they're in 3 in their L2 and 1 in their L3. Everyone still with me? It's quite complicated, isn't it? Have a wee look at the map, see if it makes it a tiny wee bit clearer. At the moment, however, there isn't that continuity between primary and secondary, between the L2 and the L3. But this is something that the principal teacher is very aware of, and she is, again, knocking on these doors, having these difficult conversations with the deputies, and she is solution-focused. She's got the idea of how she wants to deliver this, and she's going for it. So she's got a very clear idea in her mind of where she wants to be in 2021. So she's, again, managing to maintain language diversity throughout. Continuity, as I say, is a bit of an issue, but she's running multi-level classes in the senior phase, because what happens is when you've got these 3 L3s, across the whole department, uptake looks really good. In individual subjects, it looks quite small because you're splitting the languages 3 ways. So she's just accepted the fact that in order to be able to run all these classes, she's taken multi-level classes. Now, we all understand that's difficult and it's not the ideal, but if it makes the difference between a class running and a class not running, it's a no-brainer. So James Young in Livingston, they have got 4 periods of language teaching throughout the BGE. What a luxury. Imagine that, 4 periods all the way to the end of 3rd year. So what they do with their 4 periods is quite interesting. They do 3 periods of French and 1 period of German in 1st and 2nd year. Then in 3rd year, they do 2 periods of French and 2 periods of German, with the idea that with the skills that the kids have acquired in 1st and 2nd year, they can get them up to a good level in the German in 3rd year, so that if they want to take a national qualification in it going into 4th year, they're on a more or less even playing field with the French. So they've got I Choose courses in S3. See how everybody's gone for their own wee different name for those electives, I Chooses, master classes. It's all the same idea, just to give that wee bit of personalisation and choice. They've got options for L4 as well. So in James Young, they're very much of the mindset that it doesn't have to be your L1, your L2, L3, and no more language learning after that. So there can be an L4, there can be, they've got Mandarin there because they've got a Confucius hub, and they would encourage kids to take as many languages as they feel comfortable taking. And again, clear progression through to the senior phase. The kids are getting told, when we see you in the higher, when we see you back here in 4th year. So there's that drip effect, and high quality teaching and learning going on in the BGE, making sure that kids are coming back in their droves in the senior phase. So Keith Grammar School, which is always Lawrence's favourite here because it's on his own patch in Moray. So Keith Grammar School have been really clever about the way they've implemented this. They're talking about a tiny school up in Moray, and what they've done is they've gone for 2 L2s. So the kids either do French or German as their L2. Now the reason the principal teacher has done this is because she wants to maximise the capacity in the staff, not just in her own school, but in the associated primaries that she's working with as well. So she's got primaries, one primary in particular that's really strong in German. So instead of just taking the decision that it was going to be a blanket L2 across the board, she's really valuing what's going on in that primary and making sure that the kids have got continuity going up into the high school in that other L2. In order to deliver L3, again, she's maximising the capacity of the staff in her own school and the staff in the primary school by having Scots as the L3. It's appropriate for their local community, and it's also making the most of the staff that she's got there. In Keith, they've got to accept that they need to have multi-level classes in the senior phase because their school roll is so small, and that's just something that they're doing to make sure that both languages run every single year. I should have mentioned as well, actually, that their Scots is being delivered with the English department, because she's in a small department. It's just the two of them in the modern languages department, so they're bringing in staff from other areas to make sure that they can deliver this policy. And they realise that they're not quite there yet, but she's got clear plans for where she wants to go. So there's a wee bit of extra detail there on the Keith Grammar one, as they move into a consultation on how they're going to transition into a 33-period week. Okay, and St Columba's, it's your moment, Emma, here. So St Columba's High School, what was really interesting about this one is that they've got 3 periods of language in first and second year, which was set in stone. So initially, the decision was taken that they were going to deliver 2 periods of French and 1 of Spanish. What happened? They speak to the kids about it, and the kids are thinking, the Spanish period just feels a wee bit like the period off, where they're not really doing anything. They don't have as good progression as you might hope in the L2. They come into the class and they're not sure what languages that they're supposed to be doing. So after consultation, they decided that what they were going to do was deliver French 3 periods a week until study leave, then Spanish from study leave until the summer holidays in first year and second year. Then when they come into third year, they get Spanish again until the October holidays, so that they get the start for their Languages for Life and Work Award in Spanish there. Now, again, that's not ideal because you get these breaks in their learning when they finish French and pick up Spanish again, but it ensures a level of depth in both languages. And they manage to get the continuity across stages there, going from second year into third year. Also, when the kids come in, they know where they are. They know exactly what it is, what they're doing, and they're totally focused when they come in. Again, multi-level classes here so that the kids can see that they've got somewhere to go with their language learning. So I've got a couple of reflective questions here. I realise that I've just hit you with loads more information. So now you get a wee chance to digest this information and have a bit of a chat about some of the information that's been shared. So are there any aspects of these models that you think you could use? Is there anything here that could work in your context? How are you planning for the next stage of your implementation? And this is the really key question at the end here. What support do you need going forward? Because this is the time. So as you're having your discussions, please take loads of notes on the wee post-it notes and pop them up on the flip chart there so that we've got something that we can take back and that we're in a position to support you and give you the help that you need as you take the next stage of the implementation forward. Okay? Thank you very much.